I'm Jeremy Honig.
I'm Brian Cohen.
I'm Jorge Alfonso.
And I'm Jack Gorman.
Hi, I'm Andy Rooney, and on today's special edition of 60 Minutes, we will be talking about urbanism.
We've all heard of the industrial age, right? Many inventions were made at that time, but most people don't think of the political aspects of it. It sparked many new ideas, including
Nationalism, communism/Marxism, trade unionism, feminism, socialism, colonialism, and urbanism. The latter one was very important, and it still is today. So, what is urbanism? It is a movement in which cities flourish and population increases rapidly. Today we think of big common cities such as
Chicago, Boston, New York,
and Philadelphia.
Many things contribute to the growth of these cities, but urbanism is the most important of the industrial age.
Are today's decaying cities the result of 19th century industrial age?
Yes, along with other factors that impacted present cities. Before cities ever decayed, they were created by 19th century industrial age. The industrial age helped populate cities because they promised jobs for all, and it was a chance to get away from farm life. They promised jobs like loom attendant, coal miner, steel supervisor, and the average factory worker. This, compared to boring hard labor of farm life, is much better. Along with bad conditions, these jobs were still better because it was unskilled work. If it wasn't for the industrial age, these advances wouldn't have ever occurred. At the same time, the industrial age helped begin the decaying process of what it created. Cities have begun to decay due to the advancement of foreign countries, which have been industrialized and have offered cheaper labor. Therefore, jobs are sent overseas, leaving the remaining cities in poverty and filth. Another factor was the pollution created by these factories in the cities. This was unhealthy for any human being. Overcrowding was just the cherry on top that created the conditions for urban decay. In conclusion, the 19th century industrial age created these cities and is now destroying them.
How did the industrial age impact the growth and wealth of 19th century European and/or American cities?
In the 19th century, many inventions were created. Inventors of the 19th century, such as Edmund Cartwright, James Hargreaves, Robert Fulton, George Stephenson, and Thomas Newcomen, created many important inventions. Some inventions include the power loom, spinning jenny, steamboat, rocket, and the steam engine. These inventions, along with countless others, helped create industrial America. This helped improve businesses in the United States as well as Great Britain. Several businesses appeared like Texas and Pacific Railroad Company, Standard Oil, U.S. Steel, and the Lowell Mills. These new and improved businesses flourished, which caused the economy to flourish. Advances such as large buildings, paved roads, trains, and crewed airplanes were pillars of the industrial America and its economy. All these advances led to the quick rise of the modern city where jobs were. In a country where money is everything, wherever the jobs went, people followed. This led to the quick and simple population of cities. Industrialized businesses and the rise of country population helped increase the wealth of everyone exponentially, especially the businessmen and the already rich.
What were some negative and positive aspects of the new cities for the people who flocked to them?
Cities provide several positive aspects for those who inhabit them. Like if you live in a newly industrialized city around 1900s, you had plenty of advantages than some who didn't. First, we would have a great market to start a business big or small. Cities were and are dense, so starting a business was much simpler than starting one in a rural area. Other advantages is employment. When outside of the city, in a rural area, factories are much harder to find. You would have no choice but to work on a farm. In a city, you could find employment easily since most factories are located. Although a city has all these positive attributes, a city also contains several negative attributes. The first one is obvious overcrowding. Since several people flock to these cities, you're bound to run out of room. So tenement owners pack every single bit of room with people. This is a large downside since privacy is largely invaded because of this. Pollution is also a large negative attribute that cities contain. Pollution causes several discomforts in urban life. It is bad for your respiratory system by hurting your lungs with the unclean air. It also hurts the environment in countless ways. In the end, cities, like anything else, have both positive and negative aspects.
How have cities evolved along with industry?
As industrial businesses evolved, so did their respective locations. When industry began to provide a new product or raw material, the city used this new resource to build several things, such as better reinforced buildings, subways, and other colossal innovations. When businesses thrived, so did the economic wealth of its residing city. One example was Carnegie Steel in the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When Carnegie Steel grew to become the largest steel producer in the United States, Pittsburgh also grew in wealth. A powerful business does not always mean growth for its city. One prime example is Detroit, Michigan. Once a thriving city, being at the large-scale venue for Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors, once the three biggest car companies in the world, these companies poured massive amounts of money into the Detroit economy from the 1920s to about the 1960s. Detroit was a mecca of lavish mansions and the headquarters for the powerful businesses. Around 1970, the first signs of collapse were seen. American and most of the world turned to the foreign motor vehicles. Soon the foreign companies like Toyota became powerful and American car companies were in decline. When the companies declined, so did Detroit, and it soon collapsed with it. Detroit became an open sewer of sorts. A city once riddled with mansions is now riddled with poverty and gang violence. The car companies recovered, but Detroit did not.
What are some industries today and in recent history that have affected the growth and location of cities?
Today, several industries have affected the growth and location of cities. A good example is Valdez, Alaska. Once a small town with a population of 1,005, it quickly became a very important town with a population of 4,036. The reason for this is the Alaskan pipeline. When oil was found in Alaska, Valdez became an important terminal for the transportation of this oil. The oil industry was the reason for the city's increase in size. Valdez is a great example of a boom town. The shipping industry has created several boom towns. When the Erie Canal was created, the city of Rochester, New York increased rapidly. Since the city would now be reached by water, it became a large focal point for the importing and exporting of goods. The city soon grew to be the third populous town in New York, with a population of 210,565 citizens. These cities are perfect examples of what industry causes. In this case, it causes an increase in population and wealth.
How has capitalism, industrialization, hurt some aspects of once thriving cities? Capitalism and industrialization have conquered incredible challenges. Both are valued by the modern society and is practically a package deal when it comes to democracy. These titans of the modern world also hurt the thriving feats as well. Detroit was a mere example of the epidemic that is declining cities. This decline is a direct result of capitalism and industrialism that we value so much. Another example, along with Detroit and the sea of declining cities, is Chicago. Once the mecca of business, this city supplemented the economy very generously and was the foundation for several businesses. It is now a city splattered with high taxes and corruption. The city is now on its way off the cliff and is declining on aspects of population and revenue. In fact, it has the highest sales tax in the country, which is 10.25%. Like many other cities, like Detroit, Chicago was once the model of the result of success. Now it is another victim of the cancer that follows urbanism, which is urban decay.
We brought back two people from the industrial age to interview.
Today we are interviewing former farmer, now factory worker, Earl Johnson. Why did you decide to come to the city?
To get away from my life on the farm.
Oh. What did you think of your farm life?
It was boring and challenging. I wanted to escape the work. I knew that life in the city could be harder, but I heard the wages were better and there were more opportunities.
Why did you choose to become a factory worker?
It was very popular and I wanted to work with a lot of people.
What kind of factory did you work for? Shoe. Is it difficult working for a shoe factory?
Yes, I worked 12 hours for little wages. I actually make shoes and polish them, and although this may not sound hard, it is very hot in the workplace, and the long hours doesn't help the situation.
Thank you for this interview. Yeah!
Today we're interviewing factory owner Garfield Smith. So Garfield, what company do you own?
The Smith Steel Company.
Are your workers satisfied with their hours and wages?
Yes, I am not one of those unreasonable factory owners. I give them breaks and I am not strict when it comes to rules. When they think that something needs to be changed, I listen and I try to compromise with them.
How has the economy helped your business flourish?
The economy has been doing great due to the increasing growth of cities, and now that more products are made, steel is needed much more often than ever before. That's why my workers have good wages and are always satisfied.
Do you have any plans to help spread your company through America?
I plan on building new factories in many of the new popular cities such as New York and Chicago.
Thank you for this interview, Garfield.
In conclusion, urbanism has both beneficial effects and many negative effects. Urban decay is seen all over the world and even in our own backyards. Today when we think about big and successful cities, we talk about New York, Chicago, and many others. Although some parts are nice and desirable, many areas have experienced the terrible effects of urbanism. This urbanism wouldn't have ever occurred if the industrial age had never happened. So, we shouldn't blame this decay totally on what created it, but we should blame the humans that did not help to keep it alive.